Hi, my name's Cordy and I'm on a mission to bring back the upwards angle, and let's show off our chins. Let's just really make the most of it in 2021. Right, no, this morning I wanted to try and sort of get a tone close to the Fender 63 spring reverb. I borrowed this off Gary, had it for a few months in the studio, but I played it through the Champ and I was like, oh, that's a really cool reverb. Now in the Helix HX Stomp there's a 63 spring in the Legacy verbs, which happens to be stereo. So what I did was I decided to put this in front of the HX Stomp, the actual reverb unit, and then switch between the 63 spring, do some tweaking and see if I could get close. Obviously they're both mono if they're running in front of an amp, and I wanted to share with you what I found, and then I wanted to share with you some other kind of general thoughts. So I'm going to play the clips back to back now. Basically in this mix of clips you'll hear the HX Stomp reverb, you'll hear the amp reverb, and then you'll hear me turning off one of the tricks that I found that got a little bit closer and then turning that back on. See if you can notice a big difference or anything like that. When I listened back to what happened just there that you've just seen, I feel like it was a bit closer than I thought I was actually getting when I was switching between and just playing. The biggest variable obviously is me. So I'll just talk you through what I found has worked to get actually closer to the reverb unit, and I'll just talk you through some of these choices. First of all, I put it on a parallel path because that gives me greater flexibility to be able to do things to just the reverb, if you see what I mean. So I've got the 63 spring reverb, this is where I started, and with the tweaking I ended up getting the decay to 8.4. There's quite a present delay, it does dwell for quite a bit. The settings that I've got messed around with the pre-delay, it doesn't seem to make huge amounts of difference, but I've put it to 61 milliseconds. The low cut I've turned off, the high cut I've turned off, the mix I've got 100%, and the level is at 0. What I found was, I think the actual reverb unit that I've got here has a tendency to be a little bit brighter than the 63 spring for whatever reason. I've experimented with putting an EQ after it. I've put the parametric EQ. Now someone who knows more about EQing stuff will probably be able to do this way better than me and get even closer. So what I've done is I've sort of cut around the 563 Hz range by 1.9 with a mid Q of 2.0. And then I've boosted at 5.4 kilohertz with quite a wide Q, I think, 7.6 dB, and then I've brought the high cut down to about 14.5. Now, messing around with those settings gets you a whole range of different results, but it's worth experimenting with. I think you could get it closer if you knew what you were doing with an EQ, like I don't. The other thing that I noticed was there's quite a lot more oscillation and movement in the actual real reverb unit than I was getting out of just the 63 spring by itself. So I've added a harmonic trem after it, and I've messed around with the settings a little bit and got something which I felt was a little bit closer to the movement that I was hearing. A spring, I believe, would gradually slow down, so there's probably other options other than the trem that you could try using, but this kind of worked close enough for what I was trying to do. The speed I got to 7 Hz, intensity 1.6, sine wave. I think just everything else is the same. Now the other thing that I found was when you turn up the mix on the Fender 63 spring reverb unit, it's also doing a bit of a job of sort of taming the high end of the guitar. This is by no means a transparent kind of reverb unit. It's a tube reverb unit, and as you turn up the mix it sort of rolls off some of the high end. Maybe the perception then would be that it's got a bit more feel wise, it then feels a bit different. Maybe it feels a bit thicker in the mids or something like that. So you could experiment with, on this dry line, as in path A, you could experiment with doing different things. So maybe you could try EQing there. What I've done is I've added on a studio tube preamp. I've pushed the gain to 5.4 and I've brought a high cut down to 4.2 and pushed the level to 6.2 and the sensitivity to line, so that could be mic or line level, I've pushed it to line. And I found that that did something, and I'll just play the clips from the start again and I'll label what those actually were so you can hear the difference when I apply that. So the conclusion of this test was that probably someone who knows what they're doing with an EQ could get even closer. I don't know if it'd be totally possible to replicate that kind of spring. There's like that slap thing going on at the very start of a note, but to me I feel like I can get close enough that I don't have to go out and spend 800 quid on a reverb unit. But then the other thing that I was finding was that when I go back and listen to the clip of me just playing and trying to A-B them, and so what I'm doing is switching up the mix on the reverb and then switching off the reverb kind of settings that I've got on the HX Stomp. I was thinking that I'm playing roughly a similar thing. What I found was there's kind of vast differences in what I'm actually playing, and in particular kind of techniques. So sometimes I might be playing with fingers, and sometimes I might be playing with a hard pick stroke, sometimes a soft pick stroke. And those differences are way bigger than actually what's happening in what I'm trying to compare with the reverb units. So I thought that was a vaguely interesting takeaway from that. Like, I'm more different than the reverbs actually are when I kind of tried to match them up. Anyway, if you wanted to get that preset, I'll drop it into the folder if you wanted it. Does that sound at all close to you? Does that sound acceptable to you? I think in some ways it's nice to be able to have the reverb in the Helix kind of not affect the dry signal. Whereas, obviously, as I said, when you turn up the mix on the real tube reverb unit, it's doing like a high-end roll-off thing. And obviously the actual reverb tail itself is less perfect. I think that's part of what people like about tube analog gear and stuff like that, is the imperfections, maybe. I do really like the sound of this reverb unit. When I go and do the A-B comparison stuff, I think I kind of like the sound of this reverb as well. Now I've done a few little tweaks to it. Someone with a better ear for EQ and who knows what they're doing is definitely going to get better results than I could. So be interesting to know your tips. If you found things that work for you with this reverb, leave them in the comments. Thank you for stopping by, and hopefully that was vaguely interesting. Now I'm going to show you how wildly different my playing was when I was trying to do some A-B clips. Cheers!